Okay. Well, welcome. It's nice to meet y'all again, Lane. And I think we might have met previously, Katie. I can't remember if you were here last time or not. But yeah, super excited to get going with some Cabot Cove for y'all. We'll do this driver navigator style, like I said. So feel free. It's much more helpful for you all if you ask questions and just interject. Feel free to stay off mute and just ask questions, especially with this small of a group. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with the README. So we're going to kind of follow these first steps here. We're going to fork this repository, clone it down. As I said, you can either clone down or fork, your choice, and then we would just follow these. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And then if y'all want to drive me, navigate me from here on out.
Yeah.
Feel
Do
free.
you want to bundle install and bundle update?
Okay. And have y'all, I'll ask like some extra questions along the way, but like, are y'all familiar with what bundle is doing?
Sort of.
Yes.
It runs the gems, I know, in the gem file. Outside of that, I couldn't tell you much.
Yeah, that's basically it. You're basically making sure that anything within the gem file is included in your sort of environment to make sure that you have everything you're going to need to run this app locally. Okay, so we did our bundle install, we did our bundle update, and now we're going to do what?
Oh, we'll need to do the Rails DB drop create migrate seed.
Very good. And I'm going to spell this out, but there's a bunch of little nifty shortcuts as well that you might see at some point. One of them, you can make like little aliases in your terminal. And so one of the aliases that people have for this one is nuke, which does the exact same thing. Bundle exec rspec, you can just do a burr. And so, yeah, I can pass those along if any of y'all are interested, especially because typing out bundle exec rspec every time is very, very verbose.
Yes.
Okay, so where do we go from here? Let's keep reading. We're going to TDE work. We don't have to do any form input, no visual styling. This challenge uses a many table, which I'm sure y'all have a little bit of familiarity with. After setup, we're going to run bundle exec rspec. You'll have 10 failing model tests, and we want to get these 10.
We actually haven't, sorry, Garrett, to interrupt. We haven't done many-to-many yet. We've just done one-to-many. So this would be interesting.
Oh, okay, great. Super. I forgot that y'all hadn't started on many-to-many yet. So many-to-many is going to be different in that you're going to have what's called a joins table. Have you all gone over a joins table yet?
We have our official joins lesson, I think tomorrow, or I think it's Friday actually. But we have done joins through the intermission work with raw SQL, just not a whole lot on our own. So yeah. Okay.
One of the things that's helpful in understanding what's going on here in the thanks for throwing that out there, because that's helpful to know. So one of the things that's helpful to like get a sense for what this actually looks like, you can go into your schema file, and I just did Command P and found the schema. Once you get comfortable using Command P, you're never going to want to use anything else. So there's a website called DB Diagram, I think is the one to use for this. Are y'all familiar with this?
I think this,
Yes, we did use this.
Ah, you have used this. Okay, cool.
Hmm.
So what you can do is you can clear this out, and what you can do is you can do import from Rails here, and then just paste that whole schema
Oh,
to actually see what this, I find at least that it's helpful to visualize the information, and get a sense for what it looks like and how they're going to join together. But this is what
yeah,
that
it's pretty cool.
that's really,
many-to-many relationship is going to look like. And so just quick crash course on what that means is that anytime you have a course, it can belong to many residents. And the way that they are connected is through what's called a joins table, known as resident courses. And every time a course has a resident that's signed up or associated with it, rather, their resident ID is going to be collected and that course ID is going to be collected. So in that sense, you could have many residents attached to a course. You could have many courses attached to a resident, and so on and so forth.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's crash course. You obviously will have a much more in-depth overview of that. But if any of this is unfamiliar, please continue to like ask questions like that or let me know. Okay, well then this will be really interesting. Let's go from here. After setup, we're going to run bundle exec rspec. Again, I'm going to do just a simple burr, and I can show you those aliases at some point if you want, but that's the same thing as doing bundle exec rspec functionally. So we got a 10 failing test as promised. Let's just go up to the first one here. And we're going to say expected course to validate that name cannot be empty. And this is in our course spec. So let's go to our course spec. And we see our test here. Are you all familiar with these tests so far?
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So then I'll let you start navigating a little bit more from here. Where would you expect to go to correct this error?
We'd want to hit line 6 in the course spec.
Okay, very good. That's the beginning.
This will also be interesting because we haven't done validations yet, but
Oh,
still we'll chug along. I did get a very quick crash course on that from Danny for the first project as well. I don't know if you saw that, if you got that too, Kaylee, but
A little bit, yeah.
yeah.
well,
Is
that,
this, sorry,
sorry, go ahead, please.
is this because we don't have anything in the tables yet? I noticed that the seed file is empty, or for these, will that already be entered somewhere?
Well, this isn't actually anything to do with our seeds. It's a good guess. And it's in some ways, I guess, a little bit to do with it's to do with data that could happen. So what this is saying is like whenever you validate or whenever you bring a course into the database, you can create courses, in raw SQL like you did over intermission. You can create them through Rails. But whenever you make a new course, you should make sure that that entry in the database has a name.
Right.
And then
Makes sense.
relationships is similar to what you've done already, but you've just done a belongs to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for validations, I'll just kind of drive us a little bit further. For validations, where we're going to go is actually into the course, because what this is doing is it's checking the model course to say, okay, validate me information. But because we have nothing in here, we obviously aren't passing this test. So
Right.
any guess what might go there?
Yeah, I'm looking at my last project. Let's see. So we do like a belongs to, is that should validate? Oh, I'm sorry, not that. Never mind.
Oh, no. I just said, oh gosh, because my Copilot was running and it was giving away the answers.
Oh. At least in my old model, I have validates presence of and then name. Is that what this is looking for? Like it needs to actually be in the model to be tested?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So, and if you're unsure, you'll start to get much more familiar with looking this stuff up. But if you're unsure how you would go about this, you could say like active record, validate model or something like that. And then first thing right there, active record validations. You could add in your version of active record, obviously. But then you'll get more and more comfortable with reading this documentation. But if you're ever unsure how you would do that validation or what syntax to use, you can always look it up, because what's more important is that you know the concept of what's working rather than like exactly how to do this.
Okay.
Okay. So this is exactly what we were just talking about, right? Validates name, presence, true.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the longer way of saying validates presence of,
Okay.
which was what you were, and validates presence of is just kind of a one-stop shop. Validates, you can do a few more options with it, but either one of those works. So validates name, presence, true. We're going to expect to pass that first test now, and have 9 more tests. There we go. 10 examples, 9 failures. So we got rid of that one failure. Let's go back up to the top again. And we can read this error, course spec line 10 and course spec line 11 we're failing in. So
Okay.
those associations.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done relationships so far?
A little bit, just yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remind me what you did on with your one-to-many relationships.
So we have a belongs to and a has many. So for this one, it'd be it has many, one for resident courses, and then, oh, I see, has many residents through resident courses. I'm not sure about that.
So which way would you like me to do it? Let's try.
Well, for the first one, we could say has many resident courses.
Good guess.
Should have many residents through. And I guess, yeah, just residents, just to see when it comes up.
You want to try like that?
Well, what were you doing with the comma? Now I'm interested.
No, well, what I was going to show you is 2 things. One, we're going to see, okay, so course spec 11, we still haven't satisfied that course relationship is expected to have many residents through resident courses. So we haven't actually done that. What I was going to show you is something after we do this. So what would be your guess based on kind of how this is looking in the test? What would you guess to set up this relationship?
Just a guess, maybe on line 4, it's like has many resident courses and somehow we can like connect that with the residents. I'm actually not sure.
No, you're on the right track. Instead, we're going to do it on line 5, actually. So we're going to have many residents through resident courses. And that's exactly how this works, right? If I type course.residence, it's actually counting all them up through resident courses. And then I get my resident. Or counting is maybe the wrong way, but it's finding them all through this joins table. And that's that has many relationship. So what we do is we do through resident, and this one always looks wrong, but that's the syntax for it. Has many residents through resident courses. What I was going to show you is these will both, I might bite my tongue, this might be an old version of Rails, but this will both fail if I move them in a different order because of how that goes through one another. I'm just going to show you there. We're going to pass here. We've got 8 failures now. Great. We passed. And
Yeah, that one's not
and
passing.
if I do this way, then we're going to get, oh, okay. Well, we got, oh, but we are still, did I miss
Yeah, it's still not passing.
I know what I'm missing. This is not going to pass yet until we actually do it within residents and resident courses. Yeah. So it's a bit of a misnomer because you can be like, why is this not working? This should be working. And it's because we don't yet have residents and resident courses set up. So let's fix some of those as well. Let's go to resident course spec. And then in resident course, we see that it should belong to a resident and belong to a course. So I'm going to open up my resident course. And we're going to do the same thing or very similar thing to what we just did with our course, which is belong to. And the syntax is actually belongs to there's another one of those areas in your Rails app that will be very particular about which syntax you use. Is it plural? Is it singular? But this will take care of those two things. And then we're going to go to our last errors, which is our resident spec. And we'll do the same thing for our resident. Do resident. And we're going to do the same thing. So one thing you may or may not have noticed is we didn't have any validations for resident courses.
Right.
Why we don't have that item there. But we will have it here, as you see, for residents. So we're going to do the same thing that we did up here, which is validates. And then again, you can do validates presence of and just do name this way. And we're going to do that for all 3 of those, right?
Yeah.
And occupation will be our third. And then for relationships, what do you think that's going to look like based on what we did?
Let's see, should have many resident courses, so has many resident courses. And then the same thing for has many residents through resident courses.
So
should have, sorry, has many courses.
You've been through a big project. You were on the right track. We're in the resident here. I'll make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. So yeah, exactly. Have many courses through resident courses. Okay. I think we're good to probably run our test again. Oh, syntax.
Validate.
It'll get you. So it's validates presence of.
Gotcha.
Try that one more time. And there we go. So take a quick pause there. Does that kind of make sense? I know you haven't gotten to many minis yet, but are we making sense a little bit so far?
Yeah, for sure. Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, cool.
And is the reason we're not validating anything on resident courses because it's a joined table that's like, stuff from the other tables? It's not anything new.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So good question. The resident courses joins table is simply for each entry on the resident courses, you'll have an ID for that resident course, but you'll have the residence ID, which links to the residence table, which gives you the information for the residents. And you'll have a course ID, which gives you the courses associated with that entry. And through each of those is where I can see which residents and which courses they belong to, or not belong to, but have many of, and which courses have many of.
Right.
Good question. But yeah, that's why this is super helpful to like paste that in and just see like, okay, I don't need name, I don't need age in here as well.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, Noel.
Hello, sorry I'm late. Had a little Pebble meeting.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Feel free to jump in with this small group. Throw out any questions y'all have. No, Haley and Lane, right, was here. Lane let me know that a lot of this is new material. So if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, feel free to use your best guess and just stay off mute and throw out suggestions.
Awesome. Thanks, Garrett.
No problem. Okay, so we just went over our passing test. We set up our relationships. We set up validations. I think we're through that first part of the README. So let's go ahead and go back to our README now. Okay, so we've got before starting user stories, that's where we left off. We got these 10 tests to pass, go us. And now we've got user stories. The residents of Cabot Cove are tied to the rampant crime. Okay, cool. Keep track of the residents and the courses in which they are enrolled. So user story 1, as a visitor, when I visit residents, I see a list of residents with the following information. So this should be somewhat familiar to you. Do you have any idea where we'd start?
Yeah, so I think first we would need to create a route for that to like route to an index and create a controller for residents.
Mhm.
And then a view after that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And if we were, I guess, if we were to use TDD to do this process, where would we start by doing that?
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Kelly, it's all you. I think we would want to put this in. Shoot. I think we would want to make a features directory under spec, and then within that features directory, we would want to make a residence. I think that's our file that we want to make, and then index.html.erb within that directory.
Those are great. Yeah, awesome. Great guesses. What
Woo.
tipped you off about that?
Wait, what?
What tipped you off to know that we would want an index spec?
Since we're looking for just a list of the residents, kind of
Very good.
points us towards the index.
Yeah, very good. And as you get a little bit more comfortable, you'll start to know that this is actually that residence is typically associated with an index page. And this would be typically associated with a different page. So
A show page, right?
exactly, very good. I didn't want to get too super. So we see when I visit the wet residence, I see a list of, so let's just go ahead and put this over here for now. And now we are in our index spec, nice and blank. So where do we go from here? Do y'all remember the syntax that we put into our test?
We're gonna want to require our Rails helper first, I think.
Good. Okay. And after that,
Do like an RSpec just dot describe,
very
and
good.
we can resident index.
Like
I don't
this.
think you, yeah, let's see. And then in quotes, resident index.
Oh, I think we need a capital S after the R in RSpec.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. Resident index, and then
I think the instructors had told us like type : feature.
yeah, very good.
I don't think it's necessary, but
What this is doing is under the hood, RSpec has some different models associated with it. Or maybe models is the wrong word to use, but they have some different varieties of RSpec, let's put it that way. And when you tell this is a feature, when you tell RSpec this is a feature spec, it comes with like certain methods associated with it. So models come with certain things associated with it. Routing comes with certain things associated with it. For now, yeah, just remember that you're basically going to be working with features and models.
right. Okay, cool.
Okay, and then we can start writing our test, right?
So we could do like, yeah,
Go ahead.
it shows list of residents when I visit / residents, something simple.
And then what do we want to put in our test? This is where
So
we
I think,
what you initially suggested. Sorry, Kaylee, go ahead.
do we need some test data first? Like, creating some residents.
Yep.
So we could use kind of that example that they have below, like maybe Jessica each equals, and yeah, use what they have. And resident dot create with an exclamation point.
And do you want me to put this in this test, or you want me to put this? Where do you want me to put this?
We could do like a before do if we wanted. I haven't used that in a little bit, so I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Do you remember, Noel? Oh yeah, perfect.
Yeah, before each do, and then we'll want to set that as an instance variable with an @ sign. Yeah. And then since we've already associated these, do we need to do like I don't know what the parent is, but the parent dot residence create for when we're creating this?
So going back to the way we have our table set up, remember that this is not necessarily, we don't have a parent per se. So the way that this table is set up, and this is what Kaylee and lane we're talking about, but I know y'all haven't seen joins tables or many relationships yet, but the way this works is the residence doesn't have a parent and the courses doesn't have a parent. They are their own separate tables and they are joined together by this resident courses. So
Got it. Okay.
have many courses and courses can have many residents. That's not many to
Got
many.
it. Okay.
But you're
Thanks.
you're on the right path, that we need to do something to create these instances. The only other thing I'll say, and this is really minor, but if you're trying to manipulate a bunch of different data, there's maybe two different ways of going about this, but I think if in a hurry, if you're trying to change multiple things, I would err on just naming this like resident one. That way, if I needed to like change the name of something down the line, I could select all of those residents and not have to like Jessica and Natalia and this, like it just makes it a little bit easier.
It's a good tip. I definitely did not do that in my last project and found myself just having to like go through each instance and edit things.
And every little bit you can do on your to save time on ICs especially is useful. So oh, I'm sorry, I'm going ahead. What would we do to create our resident? What do we need to create a resident?
I think it's name : and then in parentheses, Jessica Fletcher.
Great, and I'm just gonna go ahead and copy and paste that. And you said in parentheses or
Yes. I'm sorry, quotations.
okay, very good. Because that is a string. And what else does a resident have?
An age.
Yep. And I feel comfortable typing that one out myself. And what else?
And occupation, followed by stream.
Very good. We're going to call her a mystery writer. Okay. And should we create the other one now too?
Sure.
Cool. So I'm going to just make that one, and then we'll put in the other information here. And they are 70. And they are going to be a town doctor. Do we have what we need?
I think so.
Cool. So back to our test. Where do we go?
I think we can just get into our, oh, no, we can't. We need to visit first. So visit, and then in single quotations, like it is in the user story, we would do / residence.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can do expects page. I only used expect page in my last project. But we could do expect page to have content. Resident one dot name. And I don't know. I did mine separate where like each attribute was its own expect statement. Can you do a comma between them, or is it best practice to do a separate expect statement?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I would look at the capybara documentation. I would say the way I've seen it almost every time is just like this.
Okay, cool.
So I
Thank you.
don't know if you can put a a comma in there. What else are we going to see on that page?
We'll do the same thing for the other resident.
Yeah. And I just did a shift option down, and that just copies down that whole block. And that's where those little things like this make it just so much easier. So resident 2, and what are we forgetting here? In all of these. Anybody see it? Forgetting our at.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, yep.
Yeah. An easy one to forget. That's why people typically, well, I don't want to say people will typically, but the other syntax for doing this would be resident 1, and then we could do the same thing we just did here. And basically that allows us to just call resident 1 without without the at symbol. So I'd say people tend to do these let statements just because you don't have to remember the at symbol, but and the before each is technically like taking up more memory. So if you get into a bigger application, it'll start to maybe slow it down a little bit. For what you're doing functionally, it's the same thing.
Yep.
Okay, let's put that at symbol back. Visit residence. Anything else we need on the page? I don't think so. Am I missing something? We're ready to run.
I think we can run it. I'm happy with that.
All right, and then I told them this earlier, Noel, but this like burr command is basically a shorthand for doing bundle exec rspec.
Oh, nice.
And so we're gonna do burr features, spec features, residence, and then our index spec. What's the error we're getting back? Oh, I'm like put my hand over it like I'm blocking it.
We should have a routing error though.
Yes, very good. And where are we going to go to fix that? Back to your point originally, Kaylee.
Yeah, we'll go to our routes.
Exactly where we were gonna be. Okay, what do we want to put in here?
We can do get and then in quotations / residence. And then comma 2 : and then also in quotations residence #index.
I'm assuming y'all have not talked about resources yet.
Briefly, but not a lot.
Okay, briefly, but not a lot. Okay. Because I'm doing this syntax from memory, but is this right?
I think it is.
Yeah,
I had mine in lowercase. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah.
Resident. Let's see if we got it. No, I did not get it. I meant
it's residence, so with the S.
the residence will, or when I did Rails roots, have you done Rails routes yet? Rails roots. Okay, there's another shorthand way for saying what you have available to you with your paths. And once you start doing your resources, you'll start to have many more paths available to you. And so there's a handy way to see everything that's available. But this, basically what I'm doing is like saying, for any routes that have resident in them, show them to me.
Okay.
And so that would be inclusive of residents. And yeah, it was get lowercase. Very good. And now if I do that, I can see that I have my residence path to residence index. So what's the next error we think we're gonna get? And then I think we'll take a quick palm.
I think we'll get a controller error. So no controller for resident.
Very good. Perfect. You're on the right path. Okay, so let's take a quick 5 minutes and then meet back at 5 or
Sounds great.
at 0, wherever your time zone is.
Awesome. Thanks, Garrett.
See you soon. Recording. Okay, we left off with the prediction of our residence controller. So where do we go to fix that, team?
I think we need a new controller, so we need to create one.
Okay.
Like residence underscore controller .rb.
Right. And what are we going to put in our controller here? Does anybody know?
Yeah, first we'll need class residence controller, and then like the lesser sign, and then application controller.
Nifty little trick. What this lesser than means, this is like a super last minute lesson at the end of mod 1. Does anybody remember?
Inheritance, right?
Yeah, very good. So that's inheriting everything from that application controller. All right. What error are we going to anticipate next?
No action.
Specifically?
No index action.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's run that index spec. Very good. So what are we going to do to fix that?
We can, just baseline define an index. So def index end.
And then?
And then no template. I
Yep.
think.
Very good. We have no view, right? So where do we go to fix that one?
Going to views,
Very good.
and we'll need to create a folder called residence.
Excellent.
And then we'll need to create an html.erb file called index. So index.html.erb.
Perfect. And now we're finally at a point where we would expect what?
Content, any content.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to fail at which line now?
14.
Yeah, exactly. Because this page has nothing on it.
Yeah.
So let's fix that. What do we do next? What do we need to get onto our page? Does anybody?
Yeah. So in index, we can do something like at residence equals capital R resident dot all.
Nice, very good. And that's going to make available in this view all of our residents from the records that we have available to us in resident table. And what do we want to do with them?
We'll want to use embedded Ruby for it.
Okay.
And so the little Danny calls them showy tag, yeah.
Equal, or do you want me to have a
Probably just a little naked one,
okay.
like that, no equal sign, so we can iterate through residents. So at residence dot each do. And then resident as the singular.
Y'all are killing it. I am so impressed.
You're so
Seriously.
nice.
Seriously.
You're very kind.
Like genuinely so nice.
Yeah, you're really doing great. It really is overwhelming to do all of this, but you're like listening to the errors, you're anticipating the errors, which like shows that you're knowing what you need to do. Yeah, really well done. What do we want to do with each of those residents then?
And then we'll want to have showy tags for these. So with the equal sign. And then, oh, but wait, before I think we can put it, at least for my project, when I did the name, I put the name in a header, HTML header.
Mhm.
So yeah, on the outside of the ERB tag, an HTML, I guess we could do a header one tag. And a closing one on the end. Yeah, and then between, or yeah, and then we could do resident, no @ singular, dot name. And then on the next line, we could do like a paragraph tag. And then do resident dot h. And then the same for occupation.
Excellent. And so are we ready to go?
I think.
Mhm.
This is plain old Ruby. This is just iterating through that residence, and that's going to give us all of our residents. So we think we're going to pass?
Feel like we should.
I think so. Yeah. Well done, y'all. Nice work. All right. I think that's everything we wanted from user story 1.
Woohoo.
The one thing I will say is some instructors can be sticklers about this, others not so much. But what it says is I see a list of residents with the following information. And they can be picky about that. And so they may not, but one way to go, how would we go about making a list out of these items or styling it slightly differently? It's kind of counterintuitive because they also say like no visual styling is required or expected, but they're also saying that they want a list. Do you remember what we would do to make a list out of these?
Put it in either an unordered list or an ordered list HTML tag. And then we would change the paragraph tags to list item.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I was like, is it an array? Is that the answer?
There you go. It'll pass just the same. It's just gonna look now that I'm saying,
Oh, occupation isn't spelled correctly.
oh, thank you. Oh, because I see what I did there.
Deletion.
Yep. Thank you. It's gonna pass all the same. It's just gonna look different on the page. So if I did a save and open page here, you could see that it's just gonna look a little bit different. So again, it doesn't say explicitly that you need to do that. It does just say a list, and it also says you don't need any styling. But some people will be more particular about that. So
Real quick, I'm so sorry, this is not on topic. Was that Attentive Mobile?
yes.
I used to work there.
No way.
Yeah, that's wild. Small world.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at well, a friend of mine knows some people there, and so she was like, you should check them out. So I was taking a look.
Well, you're welcome to use any of my attentive network if you need.
Awesome. Thanks, Noel.
Yeah.
I might have to ask you what it was like.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's chat. I was not anywhere really near engineering. I was like client service, but the company in general, we could chat about.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my kind of tangent on list. Sorry about that.
No, that's really good to know.
Um, so we're done with that one. Sorry, we're done with user story 1. Let's move on to user story 2, shall we? So what are we gonna do next? Using TDD.
Well, I think we need a new test. for
I
our
think you're right.
page.
And
We'll
where-
do
go ahead, sorry.
we'll do show underscore spec.rb.
Okay, where?
Oh, sorry. Under features, under residents.
Very good. And I don't mean to, I knew what you were saying, but as a driver navigator, and especially when you have like more folders, and as things get bigger or more complicated, or you're working in a language you don't really understand yet, the more specific you can be with where things go, the more effective you'll be as the navigator. Okay, in here.
So we'll set up the same as we did our last one. So if we want to copy and paste in. Yeah.
Okay. And the only thing I'll say here is just make sure you're careful with copy pasting so that you have the data you think you're going to have, and so that you have you're not copying the wrong things. That's just my quick little PSA. And just for funsies, let's do let's on this one, huh?
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
And we're gonna do resident create. Hey Lane,
Hey guys.
we're just starting user story 2, Lane. So feel free to
Oh,
jump.
sweet.
And on line 3, we'll change it to resident show instead of resident index.
Yeah, great. That's not that it would make our test fail per se, but sometimes they will. Like I said, if you were copying, say, like a type model, then it might react differently in the test setup for you. So, okay, so what are we going to do next?
We'll do the we'll visit and then in quotes / residents.
I think we want an it block before that, though, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you for getting that.
I wasn't sure. I haven't used the let syntax before. So.
I know I'm not used to it. Yeah,
No,
so
you're both, I think, because we're technically in a describe block. No, I think we need its for visits. So I think you're right, Noel. I think we need it block. So what do we want to do here? It gives
yeah.
what is this? What is the show page going to do for us?
It
What's the data for a specific resident?
And just something as simple as that is fine. You don't have to make it more complicated. Some people will do, and you totally can. You can do one of these for each of those, like it shows us data for, or it shows us a specific residence name. It shows us a specific residence courses, but you can, again, in the interest of time, you can do something like that.
Garrett, quick question.
Yeah.
On your statements, is there a reason you're using a bang after let? What difference does that provide for you?
The let bang is making it so that those are created no matter what. At times, you might have funky data if you're not calling a particular resident in your test or a particular object in your test. And so what the lets do is it says, whenever I call resident one, create that object. But by using let bang, it makes it so that that object is created even before that happens.
Okay, cool.
It's similar to using a before each.
Awesome. I've seen let before, but just not with the bang. So that's great.
Yeah. So where are we going to visit, Kaylee, before I so rudely cut you off?
You're fine. We'll do residence / and then I think we can interpolate to get the ID. So we'll do like the hashtag and the curly brace. And inside we can do resident _1.
Anybody see what's happening there?
I think we need double quotes.
Yep. Got in a bad habit of using singles. Okay. And after we visited resident one, what are we going to have happen?
So we want to see the residence courses. So we'll say expect page to have content. And then we can do resident one. This I'm not sure about because we haven't really connected our tests, our like test people to any courses yet.
Yeah. Let's start with what we do know, which is what are we going to see on the page based on the story?
Their name.
Yeah, so we will see the name. And we will see what else?
Courses.
Yeah, so we could just do something like courses. And now we're going to get into these joins tables. So debating whether we want to do this first or if we want to just show y'all. Let's go ahead. What else are we going to need before we start talking about joins tables? What else is on this page? Courses, right? So we're going to need to create a couple courses here. And we can do something like this. How would we create a course?
Looks like their first one is Crime Scenes 101, so we could do that as the name of the course.
Okay.
But we'll do, is there a model for courses? Not sure. Yeah, so it'd be like courses.create, I think.
And that's, yeah, so we kind of glossed over what we were doing in the beginning, but that was exactly what we were validating and creating the associations for, was our course model. And remember too that your models will always be singular. That's another kind of, not gotcha, but the models are singular, your controllers are plural. So let's go ahead and create our course. How do we do that, Kaylee?
So instead of resident, we'll do course.create.
Very good.
The name will be crime scenes 101 as a string. And I think that's all there is for a course. The other is just created at and updated at.
Yeah, that's right. And again, you can see that if you went to your schema, or if you went to that DB diagram we had earlier, any of those places can show you what is available to us, in case you were getting lost. But yeah, name crime scenes 101, and we're gonna have a second one, right?
Mhm.
And we'll call that fingerprinting. Okay. Let's see, what error are we gonna get?
No route right now for the visit.
Does anybody see what's happening?
Oh.
Your way.
Need a resident one to ID.
Exactly. Nice.
Oops. It doesn't like the object.
No, it doesn't.
I did that so much in my project too. I should learn by now.
They're easy ones, and as long as you get comfortable with reading what those errors are, you're like, oh, okay, I forgot this. Not that big a deal. Great. So that was the error we were expecting, right? No residents 21. How do we fix that?
Route.
Route. Everybody. Okay. And in here,
A new line. Fun. But get in lowercase, and then similarly, I think we can use single quotes here. So /residence and then /:ID, which should make it dynamic. And then a comma, 2, and then in quotes, residence #show.
yep.
Nice.
Good. And now, anybody guess the next one? Lane?
Next error we will get is it template is for the view? What is it for controller? Is it action? We're gonna missing out on the action.
Specifically?
The action of, sorry,
You don't have to be sorry.
why can't I remember the simplest one? It's
It's
okay.
okay. Yeah. It's
That would be
actually,
show, because
yeah,
we have the show there. Okay, never mind.
yeah. So what
Cool.
this is doing is actually saying, like, this is the controller I want you to go to, and this is the action I want you to go to. And that's
Yep,
actually like
totally.
a method out of that. So you might have seen, like, in our test setups, sometimes we'll do like well, you might not have done model methods yet, but sometimes you'll have like a model method that is literally like it, I don't know. Well, describe class methods, and then you could say like context index. And that would describe, or sorry, this would be like instance methods. And then like you can say class methods, And then this would, some people do this or some people do this. So that's
And
kind of what that means. Just
context can replace a describe. Is that right? It's similar-ish.
you couldn't put like a context up here. If you're
Yeah,
interested in like more robust testing, I can send you this interesting better specs sheet that you can look up. But it's kind of like
cool.
describe, context, it is typically how it goes.
Gotcha. I think I've been using describe it in a lot of mine, so that sounds like it'll be better.
And you can totally do that too. It's functionally the same thing. Okay, so
Cool.
off of that tangent, and yes, we can't find that in the residence controller. So let's go to our residence controller. And we need what?
Def show.
Yep. Great. And the error we're gonna get.
Then that'll be no time, right?
Exactly. Because we have nothing to display, right? So how do we fix that one?
Create a view.
Woohoo! Where do I want
View.
to?
We have it under residence already. So yeah, inside the residence report or directory. Then we'll do show.html.erb.
Yep, very good. Oops. ERB, I heard you.
I could have said V. I would never know.
All right. And now finally, again, we are going to get to what we're gonna fail on this line. Expect page to have content, right?
Yeah, it has no content.
Yep. Yep. So any ideas on how we're gonna fix that?
If we just wanted to fix that test alone, we could technically write Jessica Fletcher in our view, but I don't think that's the best way to fix it.
Yes, that is totally fair. We could just write Jessica Fletcher. But it would not be dynamic. So how would we go about I like that though. You build for what you need.
I hear Abdul in the back of my head telling me every day. If we go back to the controller, we can create an instance variable to use inside the show.
Okay. What do I want to call them?
At resident singular equals resident dot find.
Nice. Y'all are really killing it.
With the argument params and then bracket notation symbol ID.
Nailed it. I'm conscious of time, so I won't dive too deep, but like what params is doing is like anything that's being sent through that request to us, we can see anything going on with those params. So if I put a binding in here, you can see that the params has a number of different items associated with it. But yeah, you're exactly right. We're gonna find resident dot find and then params. Oops. Params ID. I guess I could have just copied everything. And that's gonna find the resident. Very good. And now we don't have to type her name out and worry about spelling it wrong. So now we've got our resident. What do we need to put on the page?
We would want at resident dot, well, we can put it inside of an ERB, like an embedded Ruby tag.
Okay.
And then at resident dot name. I'm trying to remember off the README what we need. I know it's courses and all that, but is it just name on the top line that we need?
I think so.
Yeah, so they're
Cool.
saying you just want Jessica Fletcher courses and then these two things that we'll get to in a second. So what else? Should we run our tests? Should we do anything else?
Yeah.
We should probably put courses in. I'm sorry, Noel.
No, you're chilling. I was just saying we should have a little list.
Yep.
An unordered list.
Yeah.
Both of those things are true, based on the way this is styled. So we kind of went over this earlier, but when they specify seeing a list, some instructors are really specific about, I want to see a list. So yes, how would we put the courses in?
If we don't want it in really big headers, we can just do a paragraph tag. And then just write courses, but with a colon,
Cool.
and then end paragraph.
All right, and now we run our test.
Well, if we want the unordered list to jump, then we wouldn't yet.
So we could do on line 3, kind of a similar unordered list syntax. So unordered list. And then within we can make a list item tag and then an ERB tag with the equal sign. And then we could do oh, I think we also need to add into our show an instance variables for courses, right?
Let's do. Okay, this is where it's gonna start to get interesting. So let's put a pause just on that real quick. We'll come back to that. Let's make sure we have everything we want in our test so far. And then let's talk a little bit about joins before we start getting ahead of ourselves. Great. We've got everything we wanted, right? Now going back to this idea of like, okay, we haven't done this before. We have a many-to-many relationship here. I don't know why it's saying that. We have many relationships, and the way we set this up in our models was that a resident has many courses through resident courses, and courses has many residents through resident courses. So to your point before, Kaylee, that this is going to be something a little bit different that you haven't done yet. The way to get that association is to make a resident course entry that has both of those people associated with it. Or both of those things associated with it, I should say, because we have a resident ID and we have a course ID.
Right.
So any ideas on how we might, like, knowing that conceptually, what might we want to add in to our test setup here? Any ideas?
Like a resident course dot create sort of thing.
Yeah, and if you'll recall, we had set that up initially in our, we solved those errors in the beginning, Kaylee. You weren't here yet, Noel, but we solved those errors in the beginning where we set up our course, we set up our resident course, and we set up our resident. So we have a resident course, and that's going to belong to a resident and a course. So resident course dot create and
I think it would be, so resident ID colon. Is that what we want to do? And then interpolate.
let's double check our schema, or again, our DB. So the way you can definitely do it that well, I should say, I'm not positive if you can actually say resident ID. Part of the Rails magic is actually that and you'll learn this later when you start to like make migrations for this table, or like associate, or I guess you've already done that maybe with, you haven't done it with a one-to-many, excuse me. You'll start to see that like you don't have to necessarily say resident ID explicitly. It's going to pick it up when you pass it that object. So this is part of that Rails magic. And so
So this attribute, the resident attribute, is going to be an object. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And based on the user story, which resident do we want to see?
Jessica Fletcher.
Oh, Jessica. And what else does a resident course have in that record?
Of course.
Perfect. And we'll do. I heard somebody say course 1.
Yeah.
Yep. Very good. And then again, kind of the way we're gonna do this, because of that, the way that joins table works, you're gonna make another entry with the same resident, but a different course.
Cool.
And this is gonna give us, this is gonna give Jessica those 2 courses.
And then we need to set those equal to variables to be able to call them later in the test, right?
You don't have to set them equal to variables unless you're going to call them in the test. And because the way that joins table works, let me see if I could just quickly demonstrate this for you. So we did a binding pry here. Okay, I'm gonna do resident 1 is Jessica, right? And course 1 we have as well. Now, the way those associations work, you guys have done a little bit of active record so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way those associations work is in setting those up through the models. There's our course. Let me pull up our resident. Our resident has many courses. So we should be able to say resident 1 dot courses, but it's nothing. And that's because we don't have that association made yet. Now, if I get out of there and I comment those back in, and I do the same thing, now all of a sudden we have both of those courses available for that resident. And the reason that works is because of the associations that we made through resident course. So we don't actually have to like name those anything. Resident 2 doesn't have anything because we haven't actually made a record in resident courses.
So, so part of the magic, I guess, is when you put in a resident, it like, because of that through, it goes to that join table and looks there. So we don't have to like call resident courses or anything. Okay.
Yeah, I think this will work actually. You could do, yeah.
Mm.
So that's actually what that's doing for you.
Okay.
So it's yeah, that's kind of part of the Rails magic, is the best way to put it.
Garrett, I know we don't need this right now, but we could also call course1.residence, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Because of the way we set that association up. And the reason that works is because of what we just looked at, which is a course has many residents, and that's not the one I want. And a resident has many courses.
Cool.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, sorry, more tangents. Hopefully that's helpful.
Really helpful.
Okay, so what else do we want to see on this page then? Knowing what we know now.
Crime scenes 101 and fingerprinting.
And what am I gonna do?
So resident one dot courses. Well, we have to like pluck just the name or something like that. I'm trying to think.
Can we just do course1?
You're exactly right. You could totally do it that way. It would just be more work. You're like doing the active record
I'm
work.
overthinking it. That's what I'm
Yeah.
doing. This is yes.
But again, bravo. Y'all are really killing it on everything you know about active records so far. And we have course 1, which covers us there. What else do we want to see?
Course2.
Course 2, exactly. And furthermore, you know, another way to like make this more robust, you could say like expect page to not have content resident 2 name, just to be explicit that like, hey, we know we have resident 2 and we know we have resident 2 and we know because we're going to resident 1, we shouldn't see resident 2.
Sorry, I was just going to confirm with that circle. With those 2 statements, we don't need to call it. That's the reason we don't need to call it through active record or anything, right? We can, when we create those statements at the top of the it block, that's just saying these 2 things are associated. So
these 2.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, cool. So it knows at this point when we're down in the expect statements, if we just call course 1, it knows that course 1 is associated to. Or are we only doing that because we know that's the course we want? Does that make sense?
We are making this record in the table resident courses because we know that based on the README, we wanted to see Jessica Fletcher have those courses.
Mm-hmm.
And so, oops. That's why we gave resident 1, Jessica, course 1 and course 2. And the active record part of it is this resident 1 dot courses. What active record does, it's called an object relational mapper. So it's reaching into the database and making objects out of those things and converting those things to SQL for you. Or
I was overcomplicating. Yeah, sorry. I think I was overcomplicating again too, as if somehow our expect statements were needing to know that they were associated when it's just a user thing that, or like if we're the creators, so it's just a creator thing.
Yeah,
we just need to know it.
It's a good question. Yeah, that's to your earlier point, why you don't have to set that to a variable.
Yep.
Because that association is happening no matter what.
Cool.
Okay, so we run our test. And what are we going to expect
Let's do it.
to happen?
We're not gonna have the course names present. I
Yeah,
haven't read them yet.
exactly. Okay, so what do we do to get our courses over here?
Ooh, I think we can do, well, hold on, let me think.
Do we need to iterate through this?
Yeah, we can iterate through the courses, right? To
Yeah.
show the course.
And to do that,
We'll need an instance variable in show, right? In the controller.
We have
Or do
one
we?
already.
we have resident, right? And based on what we just went through, what does that resident have?
As courses.
So
Yeah,
could we just do resident courses dot each do? Or is that, okay,
I think, yeah.
keep going, Noah.
okay. So in an ERB tag without an equal sign, we'll want resident dot courses.
At
Or
or just resident.
just resident. I think. I
Oh,
feel like
crap.
it might have an at
What do you
sign
think?
though.
What do you think, team?
I
Oh, at.
think at resident courses, just so that we can pull that specific resident. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, so this at is the reason you have that at is because it's making it globally. That at is, well, I guess it's not technically a global variable, but it makes it available to this view. And so anytime we want to call upon that resident object, we need to do at resident. So by using this at symbol, we make it available to us in the view. More kind of Rails magic.
That makes sense.
But you're exactly right. We would do each do, and then what would we do?
This resident singular in the pipes. I think. No, course. That's my bad. Sorry.
That's okay.
And then we can I think we can just put these in as showing ERB tags as list items. Yeah, so then it would be course dot name.
Yep.
Cool.
And then again to make our list,
We'll do.
we can actually just move this in here.
Ooh, okay.
Mhm.
And then we want to do like an LI
Yeah.
tag.
I don't know about y'all, but the HTML part over that second intermission, I got nowhere. So if you felt the same as me, know that it's okay.
Yeah,
The CSS is not my strength.
not
No.
mine either. That little project looks so bad.
And what else do we need to do here?
Oh, an end. We'll need a little end.
Yep. Very
Yeah.
good. All right. Run it. Boom.
Nice.
Way to go. All right.
Garrett, I have a quick question.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I should have paused to ask.
No, you're good. In our schema for like going through the development database, do we already have the association? I think I might have been missing that. I can't remember if we have the association created or if it's just in the test environment.
No, sorry, you missed that first part of, or no, actually, you were here. So the schema was already made for us. We ran our migration at the beginning.
That's right.
And this, we didn't actually generate the migrations ourselves. So we didn't
Gotcha.
generate the courses table. We didn't generate the resident courses table. We didn't generate the residence table. But if you
Cool.
did do that, you would have done it in a particular order, which again, you'll go over a little bit more as to like how to generate those migrations. Otherwise, this was already available to you. What we did do was to make those tests at the beginning pass by adding these validations and adding these associations.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Question. Okay, any other questions? All right. User story 3. We'll try to, I'll ask fewer questions and we can kind of motor through this one a little bit faster. But what are we going to do next?
Test.
What are we going to test, Lane?
We will test that we can see a list of courses and the number of residents enrolled in each course.
Great. And where am I going
Oh, we
to?
need a new file. Yeah, we need it for courses index spec underneath a courses directory. Cool. And then we will require the Rails helper.
I'll pull this over. Just gonna close some of these out. And put this guy over here, and we'll get that other index that we just made. Okay. So we'll do some of the same stuff over here.
Copy paste, love it.
And
then we'll create an it block or it displays a list of courses and the number of residents enrolled in each course. So just copy and pasting from the README.
very good.
And then
Where do we want to go?
we'll want to visit courses or / courses in quotes. And then expect page to have content. And we'll want just crime scenes 101 :5 and then another expect page to have content fingerprinting :10.
Okay, so what I'll say here is this is where it's going to come down to specifically how you set up your data. Because what this is saying, right, is this crime scenes, how many people are in it, right? And so we could totally do that. We could make 5 residents and 10 residents. And we can do that using FactoryBot, but like for the sake of this, they wouldn't necessarily dock you points if you did 2 and then 1 or something. And so
we want to test the dynamic values, huh? Oh, not necessarily.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm getting at. And yeah, you could say crime scenes 101 2, or you could say crime scenes 101 10, or whatever the case may be. it's a valid point. We want it to be dynamic. What I'll say is what we want to do is to actually take some of this additional data, because this is giving us those courses and the people enrolled in it, right?
Mhm.
And just for funsies, let's add another resident to the second course, which means what? How many people does course 1 have?
Got it. That'll be 1, and then 2 for course 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, if we followed 5 and 10, we would have to create 5 different course 1s and 10 different course 2s.
Exactly. So just for the sake of doing this, we're gonna do it this way.
Cool.
And what do we put in here? To make
If we want to interpolate dynamically, then we could do string interpolation, course 1, and then outside that string interpolation colon,
very good.
and then string interpolate. Or we won't interpolate this one. We'll do. Well, I guess we could do interpolating course 1 dot residence, right? Or dot residence dot count.
Very good. Nailed it. Y'all should be teaching this. I'm sorry. I'm here. Holding you back. That's exactly right. And that's how you would make it dynamic. Again, this is like a nitpicky thing. Count is gonna like count it up out of nowhere. This is like a super minor thing, but it's interesting to know. Count is gonna count it up each and every time. There's a second one I can't remember the name of now, but there's also a size, which kind of
Length and size. Or
length.
is it not?
Okay. And length would go through each number or each object in the array, and then size would just kind of like take it almost for granted is the best way to put it. And so size would like use the least amount of resources if you were having like tons and tons of data. For what you're doing now, not a big deal. But we'll go ahead and do the same thing for course 2. And if we ran this now, we're going to see what?
Route error.
Yep, very good. Index spec. Great. So let's go ahead and make our route. What's our route going to be?
Courses. And then it'll go to courses hashtag index.
Great. And then we'll skip over that next part and save ourselves because you've already anticipated the error so far. So where are we going to go next?
We need to create a controller for courses.
And inside that controller?
A similar setup where it says class courses and then inherits from action controller. No, wrong one. Sorry. Yeah, action controller.
Action or application?
Oh, sorry. Application controller.
Very good.
And we'll
that
define
there?
it.
And which one are we getting?
Index.
Very good. Index. Cool. And we're going to expect now that we're not going to have a template, right?
Mhm.
Very good. So where do we go to make our template, team?
Views.
Everybody views. Very good. And what do we want to call this one?
Index.html.erb.
Good. Cool. And now we're going to see probably that we have nothing on that page, right? Because it's totally blank. So this is different than what we anticipated, right? So what's happening here? What did we forget?
The at sign?
Oh, that name.
Oh, mine.
Yeah, do you see what's happened? So if I did a,
Yeah, the object.
yeah, exactly. So what actually is happening, well, actually I take that back. You're not gonna be able to see it but Capybara knows that we're looking for that like object name, or the object was interpolated. But actually we want the object names interpolated.
Would it be different object IDs if you tried to do it in the save and open page, or would it just not show up?
Well, I forgot that we didn't have anything in the template. So if
Oh.
you put like, if you on the page just put in an interactive Ruby the course one, then it would come back as like that course one with the object ID in memory. So I know it's 6:01 now. Let me just get a gauge how we're feeling. Do we want to motor through the rest of user story 3 and then call it? Do you want to see me do user story 4 real quick after this? How are we feeling?
I have to go pretty soon, but I am intrigued with 4, just because I don't think we've done like a calculation or anything.
Okay.
Well, I guess record, but yeah, I'll have to go here soon anyway. So
Noelle, Lane.
Yeah, I probably have to scoot soon too, but I'd love to, if we could finish up user story 3 just to
Yeah.
See those associations play through. That'd be
I'll
cool.
do that, and then I can also kind of show you. We'll see what time it is, and let's say we'll do a hard cutoff at like 6:10.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Garrett.
Expect page to have content, course 2 name, course 2 residence. So in our courses controller, what are we going to need?
At courses.
At courses, that's exactly right. And that is going to be what?
Capital course.
Course.all. Exactly. And so then in our page, what we can do is we can say we want to see all of our courses. And so to do that, we're going to take the thing we just created, and we're going to do at courses dot each do course. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of hurrying through this, but I want to try to make sure y'all. So just stop me if any of it's not making sense.
You're good.
thank you.
But here we're going to do course dot name, and we're going to do a just a regular old p tag here. You can do whatever styling you want, of course. And then I can do course. I will not type that out. Course dot residence dot size. And that's gonna tell me how many residents are there.
Is it typically fine to do, I don't know if that's counted as logic or not, but like logic inside of the view? Or would it be more conventional to create a different method inside the controller that does residence.size?
Good question. I would say this isn't really logic. I think you could argue as you start getting more familiar with like the MVC pattern, you'll see that like you can put stuff kind of wherever. Logic always lives in your model. And so that'll be an example next. It'll make more sense on the next example of user story 4. But this size is really just a method. If you start chaining multiple ones, or you start having more than that, you might consider putting a controller, or you might consider moving it all out and putting it into your model. But for now, I would say, I would argue this can belong here. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
And if we run courses index spec, we can see that we pass now. Great question. Any other questions there before we quickly do 4? Does everybody see how that's happening? A course also has residents, just like a resident also has courses. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Of course it makes sense. Y'all are pros already. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do user story 4 quickly. And for that, I need to go back to my residence index, right? So I'm going to go back to my residence index spec here. And I already have my residence index. And for the sake of time, I'm really just going to add on, well, I'll do this actually, because we have our ats. So it shows the average age of residents. I'm going to visit the residents again. I see that I've got both of those residents. And anybody do quick math there? Or I guess
67.5.
I was just gonna say that's not the average age we want to see from the user story, right? Expect page to have content, average age, and 67.5 is what we want to see on the page. Because again, that's going to be both of those people. So I can see that I don't have that one passing if I run my test. Okay, so what do I need to put on the page here? Let's pull up our index. And I'm going to pull up my residence controller. And in here is where I'm going to do this average age equals resident. Excuse me. App residence I can use because I already have it above there. And then here is where you can do not average age, but just average age. And then to float. So this is something that you might, this is going to work here. But this is something you could consider moving out to your model. So in my model, I might, and again, for the sake of time, I'm just going to leave it in here so you can see this. But in my resident model, I might consider making a method that says average age. And then I might do resident dot all dot average age. And this is a built-in method for Rails specifically. So I think I could even just do resident dot average on age. And then you can do to float here. So that's going to turn it into a float for me. And then I could call residence dot average age. So that's kind of two ways of doing it. If you do it here, you would also need to do a model test as well. So again, for the sake of time, we'll skip over that part, but know that you would need to do that.
Is that a class method if you do it in the model? Average age?
It's a class method if I do this.
Or I guess I'm asking, would you need it to be a class method, like to match up on calling it on at residence?
If I did no, because it technically it would be an instance method because we made an instance out of it here. So we could do it either way. Either way would work.
Okay, cool.
You'll learn a little bit more about like the difference between those things. But again, over here, what we would need to do then is just say, we can style it however we want, but let's just say H2, and then we could say average age. And we'll close that off. And we should be passing. Oh, of course, I forgot. It was actually looking for average age. Boom.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Ta-da, we're done. Nice job, Al.
Yay, thank you.
Thank
You're
you
Thanks,
so much.
Garrett.
welcome. I hope it was helpful. I'm sorry we kind of rushed at the end there. Those model things and class methods can be a little bit confusing, but know that they'll start making more sense. Yeah, thanks for joining. Hope it was helpful, and good luck with, man, almost week 3 of mod 2.
Oh man, how'd that happen?
Yeah, it's crazy. It flies by.
Thank
Yeah, let me know if y'all need any help. Otherwise, happy to help. Love doing these things, and glad y'all came today and we got to share. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your help, Garrett.
organizing these, Garrett. This is immensely helpful.
You're very
Yeah.
welcome. Very welcome. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your evening.
Bye, you too.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.